Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and since it's Women's History Month, I'm here today to talk to you about Reign, Season 1, Episode 1, the pilot. This takes me back all the way to 2013. My God, that was 10 years ago when this premiered and everything. That is just nuts. And like this show was one of the biggest CW shows of that time. Like I remember when this came out, I saw like the trailer and I'm all like, I love period pieces and this looks cool and I don't know nothing about Mary Queen of Scots. But then I recognized two people from this show. I recognize the main actress who plays Mary, Accolade Kane, because she was in Power Rangers RPM as Tanaya 7 and 15, and Lady Lola, who name I can't think of right now, the actress, but she was in the Chronicles of Narnia, and like I was just like a huge fan of hers and stuff. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'll totally watch that. And so then I watched it and I fell in love with the pilot. I fell in love with the first season. It ended on a great cliffhanger. And then the second season came, and halfway into the second season, I started to fall out of love with it. And then by the third and fourth season, because it only lasted for 4, I just no longer liked the show. And I just kept watching it only because I started it and I was going to finish it. So I was just going to watch it out of like, whateverness and stuff. But I did not like the third and fourth season, mainly because by the third season, all the people that made the show memorable were either written off or they killed those characters off. And there was only a few left from their first season, and then they kept introducing more characters, and I didn't like the new characters they kept introducing. Except for Claude. I like her in the second season. And also like the actress who plays Queen Elizabeth I. But like all the other characters, I was just kind of getting tired of, and they kept repeating the same threads over and over. Love triangle. This character's falling in love with this character. Is there the possibility that this is supernatural or not? Making babies, killing all people I like. And so like it just got to the point where it just became needless and everything. And then one of the things that made this show so strong, like, was like the strong female empowerment of like the main female cast. There are male characters in this as well, but there was more female than there were male. Then all of a sudden, by the third, there was like more and more and more like male characters, and I just didn't really care for them and stuff. And even though they introduced like new stars, like Craig, I forget his last name. He was in Legend of the Seeker. Like, he's a really good actor, but I did not like his character. And so, like, I just started falling out of love with this show. And so when this show first aired, man, I hit Wikipedia as soon as I could, and I looked up all of these historical figures, like Mary Queen of Scots. And I spoiled this for myself. I'm like, ah, crap, that's what happened to Mary? So by the time of the fourth season, I knew what was to expect and everything. And so, but when it comes to this show, don't ever look for this show for historical accuracy. This is so inaccurate, I cannot even begin to tell you and stuff. Now, this is not a rundown review. It's just like the first episode. I'm just getting through my little intro part. And so, but yes, this is so historically inaccurate. I can't even like begin to tell you and stuff. Like, it's that bad in historic accuracy and stuff. And that's one of the reasons why people clown on this show, because of how inaccurate it is. But it's such a good romance period drama. They did their own thing. And this was one of the highlights of the CW before the CW went completely like DC hero related and stuff. And, it really bugged me when they started writing out characters that I like and killing them off. I'm like, no, don't kill that person off. Like, I thought first. I no. And they did it. And then what was so weird is that, okay, the 4 ladies in waiting, who is Mary's court, her friends from Scotland, they changed their names in the show because this is so inaccurate. There are characters in real life they base this on, and some they don't. Like Sebastian, he's completely made up for the show. So since they made him up, I assume they made up the ladies in waiting, but they did not. They just changed their names. Cause it turns out the ladies in waiting, all of their real names in real life is actually Mary from back in the day. But I understand why they changed that for the show. It would have got confusing. Now, how accurate or they are from historical stuff, I don't know, because I just now found out that they was actually real and stuff. When I was looking for pictures and stuff for this show. So 10 years, I thought they was fake. But the ladies in waiting, what pisses me off is that, like, one dies early off. The other one dies later towards like the end of the third season. But like two of them disappear for the longest time, and then they get written back into the show for one to die, and then this other one gets completely written off the show. And I think there was some behind the scene drama, I'm pretty sure, of her exit and stuff. Because when I looked up on her like years ago, her Wikipedia page has completely changed now. So I think she suffered from like mental illness, and I think like there was some backstage drama. But her Wikipedia page has completely changed now. And so, like, yeah, like this show is very heavenly, it's very beautiful, it's very lush. Like, it's weird. Like, it has this dreamy, like, feeling to it, especially with the theme song. Man, that theme song is awesome. It plays throughout the entire pilot. And, sometimes they have an intro, sometimes they just have a card title sequence, but the intro is pretty cool. Like, you can find it on YouTube. Now, here's the thing about finding this show. It used to be on Netflix, not no more. It is only on the CW app. Fitting because it came out on the CW. And yes, every episode is free for you to watch. Watch them now because Nexstar is probably going to clean house on the CW this year. Now, it is on DVD. The DVD prices are reasonable. They're about like in the $20 range. Some are a little bit more than that, which makes no sense because it's been 10 years ago. But the $20 range is fine because it is about like, I don't know how many episodes there are. I haven't relooked. I remember this show feeling long, so I don't know. I have to relook. But anyway, let's actually get into this show. So, Mary Queen of Scots. This was the first time I've ever heard of her, seen anything about her. I recently told you about the Serpent Queen and how it deals with Queen Catherine Medici of like France, and how they mention Mary Queen of Scots and she appears in the show. And so like, wait, where am I going with this? Oh yeah, so anyway, Mary Queen of Scots. She is the Queen of Scotland, and she became queen at age 5 when her father, I forget his name, died. And so because of that, she had a huge target on her back because she was not ready to take the crown. And she had a lot of enemies. And one of her main enemies is England. They wanted Scotland bad, and they was trying every opportunity they could to assassinate her. And her and Queen Elizabeth, well, things did not work out very well, and they're cousins and stuff. Needless to say, if you know anything about history, is the reason why England took so many territories and stuff. So, because England was constantly trying to take Scotland, they needed a strong ally. And so they went to France, and she was engaged to Prince Francis at a very young age. So she's 15 in this series, which is weird because when you look at everybody, they don't look like teenagers at all. I always just thought of them as like 18-year-olds and stuff. I never got the impression that they was 15 years old, man. Especially with all the love and sex they be doing and stuff. Come on now. boy. And so, like, needless to say, she's been in hiding for a very long time, till she was about like 9 or something like that. But anyway, let's get into the actual beginning of the episode. So we have Nostradamus, and so he's having a premonition dream-like thing. He's walking out into the woods. There are white roses everywhere, or white flowers, or whatever you call them. And all of a sudden, blood starts dripping on his face. And he wakes up, and he's all like, I think he says she's coming, or they're after her, or some crap like that. Basically, he was one of those fortune telling people from back in the old days, thought they was psychic and everything. And because of that, Queen Catherine of France loved that. She loved people who said, oh yeah, I can see into the future. And she, based a lot of her decisions on people like that. So he became a confidant of hers. And so after that, it goes to like the title card sequence, and then we get the text, and it has to talk about Mary, and talks about how she became queen at 5, got engaged at 9, and she's now 15 years old, and she's been hiding out in a convent this entire time. A nun, I think it's called convent, something like that. She's been hiding out with the nuns this whole time. Interesting, because Catherine Medici did the same thing. She was born to a nobleman, and he was really rich. So she was not royalty at all, but she later married the king of France and stuff. And so, like, she was raised by nuns in that Serpent Queen show that I talked about. And so, like, it's weird. The nuns are playing like kickball with Mary and the rest of the girl. I have never seen, in all the period pieces I've never seen nuns play kickball. They letting loose, boy. Now, the actress who plays Mary Stuart, Queen of Scots, is Acolyte Kane. And this was really big, I remember, when I saw that she was in the show. She's an Australian actress. Okay, the show is filmed in both Canada and Ireland. And it pretty much are British, Australian, and Canadian stars. And the French castle they be in is actually a hotel. Now, what's so strange is that everybody has like a British-ish type accent. And I'm just like, well, where are the Scottish and where are the French accents at? This is something that's always bugged me about these period pieces around this time. They don't do real accents and everybody sounds British. And the Canadian people do not sound British. I'm sorry, but they don't. And this was a big thing for Accolade because she came from Power Rangers, and she was the hench girl. And, anybody know anything about Power Rangers, a lot of their stars don't go on to do other projects. And if they do, they're like small projects. So this was huge to headline your own show, like big, you know what I'm saying? And she has such a lovely sounding voice, and she's so easy on the eyes and stuff. And it's like when you look at her, you really feel like she's a queen, especially when they put her in those dresses. The outfits are like amazing. However, sometimes in the later seasons, the outfits started to look a little too modern and a little too high school prom-ish. And so, like, while she's there playing with the nuns, it's time to eat. So they're eating outside. And when they're eating outside, one nun is just looking at her very oddly and strangely. And then all of a sudden, blood is dripping everywhere from that nun. Her eyes, her nose, her ears. And the thing about this show is that there isn't blood much, but when they show it, woo, they let it show. And so the nuns realize that the other nun has been poisoned. Why? Because the food has been tainted, because the English have infiltrated the nun place and they tried to assassinate Mary. So they send her off to France thinking she'll be safer there. Because, they don't want to die and they don't want Mary to die. So Mary's sad and she's saying her goodbyes to everybody, And this one little girl is telling her of a vision she saw about some person, big, woolly, or something like that. And this is the thing about this show. For the longest time, I'm all like, is there paranormal witchery stuff going on? Is there not? Like, it got so confusing because they make you think it is. So then when you go to the first two seasons, like, ah, they ain't no magic. But then all of a sudden, the later season, boom, now there's magic. And I'm just kind of like, that's how you try to save your show? Like, you're that desperate and everything. And they were desperate towards the end because they realized they kind of messed up because they started bringing in uninteresting characters and stuff. And so Mary, she doesn't really want to go by herself, and she won't really know nobody because she ain't been there since she's been a kid and everything. But they assure her that some friends of hers gonna go with her and meet her there. So we get to like France and everything, and then we see like Queen Catherine Medici, who is played by Megan Follows, who was Anne Shirley in the older Anne of Green Gables. And so we get like, King Henry, and we get Prince Francis, and we get Sebastian, aka Bash. Now, Sebastian is the half brother of Francis and the son of the king. His mother is Diane del Portier. And so I mentioned her in The Serpent Queen. She is Catherine's cousin. However, she is the mistress of King Henry. Why? Because before Catherine and the king got married, Diane and the king were lovers when he was at a young age. So he never wanted to give her up. And so, like, she was actually the most powerful woman in France for 25 years. More powerful than Catherine. That's probably why Catherine was so mean and evil and stuff, and always wanting to behead people. And so she did have kids in real life, but none of them was by Henry. So the show just made Bash up for their amusement. And, it's weird because it's kind of like, okay. Her cousin has her man. Her nephew and her son are brothers. Boy, that's how it was back in the old days. They used to mix around a lot. Now, when it comes to these period pieces, I get so confused when I hear like the queens and princess and princesses and queens and king and all. I get so confused by them. Excuse me, because they all have like the same freaking name and everything. There are so many Charles, so many Francis, so many Henrys, so many Marys, and so many Elizabeths, and they just keep rotating the name around, and they're all related to each other some one way or another. Cousins, brothers, it's something like that, and it don't matter if they're from France, from Scotland, from England, from Spain. They all rotate the name around. It gets so confusing, especially when you look it up online, because they all have the same freaking name. And there are two completely different Elizabeth of France, who were the queens of Spain. Two completely different ones. And because they're the daughters of, well, one's the daughter of a Medici, and the other one's the daughter of, like, the king and stuff. And I'm just like, it's so confusing. And so the French people, they're getting ready for the marriage of, are you ready for this? This shocked me. Princess Elizabeth and Prince Francis. No, Philip, not Francis, Philip. Yeah, when I heard I'm like Elizabeth and Philip, like, well, hold up. No, because that's so crazy. Because, sadly, just last year, the English versions, Queen Elizabeth II and her husband Philip passed away tragically, you know what I'm saying? And I'm just kind of like, dude, there was another, like, Queen Elizabeth and like King like Philip and everything from back in the day. See, it gets so confusing because they just keep recycling the same names over and over and stuff. That is so like wow, you know what I'm saying? And so this Elizabeth is French, and she's about to be the Queen of Spain because because they did that because they need a strong ally against the English and everything. But we all know who got the last laugh in that one. Oh boy! And so like Catherine, she's kind of like, Mary, she's gonna like take away from like your sister getting married and stuff. Francis does not want to get married to Mary and everything. He is actually dreading it. And so, boom, she arrives and everything. She's all happy to be there because she's about to be protected and she's about to meet her future man and her old friends from Scotland who she hasn't seen in years are like reunited. So we get the four ladies in waiting. We get they're not Marys in the show. It would have been interesting. They were all called Mary, but no. Instead, their names are Greer, the blonde one, Allie, the other blonde one, Lola, the brunette, and crap, forgot her name. Um, Kenna, that's it, Kenna, the other brunette and everything. Forget no. I told the man it's been 10 years. So they're all happy to see each other and they're just like bonding and everything. And so she's not sure which one is Francis because they ain't seen each other since they was kids running around. And so we see Bash and then we see Francis and they talk and they smile and everything. And so they're bonding and getting to know each other, stuff like that. And so while she's there, she is like, so at some point in time, when Notre Dame is talking to Catherine, he tells her he sees his vision clearly now. And the person that's dying is Francis. And it's because of Mary. So Catherine is terrified now and very worried because she loves her son. She has other kids too, but it's something about that Francis she loves more. And so this is not news that she wanted to hear. And so it makes you wonder, because when you read about her in history, she's a very mean, evil woman. So what is she going to do? Roaming around the castle with the girls all like, we ain't been here since we've been kids and it's probably changed. And so Mary goes off by herself. And at one point she goes up to her old room when she was a kid. And Francis has taken over there. But he doesn't want Mary in that room. It's his own little secret because he likes to make swords and everything. Which is kind of weird because he's a king. So they talk and they goof around a little bit and they just joke a little bit. But, she likes that, he's hands-on and stuff like that. Well, there's a problem. Before she got there, he has a little lady friend and everything. And his little lady friends all like, ain't nothing's gonna change. You see how your daddy is and stuff. And so Mary goes to down by like the pond. And when she's at the pond, she's collecting rocks and her little French dog thing is there. That's a big old dog, man. And so she gets startled and she drops the rocks, or the pebbles, I should say, because something's in the bushes in the woods and the dog is barking at it. So she don't know what's going on. So she takes the pebbles on to Francis because she wanted him to add them to his sword. I've never seen a pebble on a sword, but hey, whatever floats their boat, you know what I'm saying? But he's all like, what are you doing coming to my room? This is actually his bedroom this time. He's like, what you doing coming to my room? You're supposed to be announced. That's why I have people outside the door. And she's all like, well, what's wrong? Why can't I come in? It's like, well, hold up. You got somebody in there? He's all like, one thing you need to know is that a king don't answer to his queen. So he's living up to his daddy ways and stuff. And she ain't liking that. And stuff. So the ladies are waiting, they're talking, and they're talking about how, there's so many guys that are checking out because they hoping to get themselves one. But Lola's all like, well, she has a boyfriend back home, and his name is Colin, and she loves him so much. The first guy she ever kissed and the first guy she ever did it with. And so like they're all like, you ain't never gonna see him again. We live in France now. So she's a little bummed out by that. And all of a sudden, as she's taking a bath, he shows up behind her. And she's so thrilled. And so they want to get married. So she goes to Queen Catherine. And Catherine's just kind of like, okay, let me read you, sonny boy. Your dad served with the former king before he died, and you're a servant boy, aren't you? Yeah, she ain't feeling that. Because you know how royalty is. They don't do servants. Well, they do them, but they just don't marry them. So she makes everybody get out the room and she talks to him in private, but we don't know what she says. And so at some point in time, Mary and Francis, they talk. And he apologized for how he treated her earlier. And she tells him, like she realizes, he had a life before, she came, but this is all going to change now because they're scheduled to be like wed and everything. And he tells her plain and simply, I don't want to marry you because he fears that a Scottish-French alliance will ruin that of France. Because he said, even they're not as like stable right now because they're going through some stuff, especially financial stuff. And because England is really, really trying to take over at this point. And then you got to remember the whole Catholic and Protestant type thing that's also going on with like the Pope and things like that. And so like he just doesn't want to marry her, and so they just have it out. They have like a huge like type thing. Mary goes out to back to the pond there again. And all of a sudden her dog runs off into the woods and she goes to run after him, but Bash stops her. And he's all like, no woman, no princess, no nothing ever goes into those woods. It is too dangerous. There's no telling what's in those woods and everything. And so it's kind of like, well, what is in the woods over there? Why is it so mysterious that she can't go, And so she heads back to her room, and when she goes there, she sees her brush. And on top of the brush are pebbles, the same pebbles she dropped when she was by the pond earlier that day. And so she walks around her room, and she's by some type of thing that you undress behind. And a handprint goes on it. There's somebody behind it. And it whispers to her, telling her, don't drink the wine. Stay away from the wine. And it's a female voice. So then the hand disappears and she goes back there. And there's nobody back there. And it's kind of like, where is this person, right? And so somebody's trying to warn her because, of course, people are trying to kill her. But she feels she's safe in France. So they have the, dance for, the future king and queen of Spain. And while there, Colin is giving Lola the brush off. Like, he's not even, like paying attention to it, but he sees Mary, kisses her hand and talks to her. This makes Lola jealous, but then she's all like, he's just being nice because that's the queen, but she's pissed. And so Mary comes back and the four ladies in waiting take off their shoes and they start dancing crazy and everything because they're just having a good time. And Scottish people are very different from French people, and a lot of them dress differently and stuff. And it's funny because Catherine, who's played by a Canadian actress, trying to do her best British accent, is all like, oh, I think she said something like, we've been invaded by the Scots, or something like that. Oh no, the Scots are taking over and everything. She sees the way they're dancing as being uncivilized and everything. And so when Mary was talking to Colin, she was about to drink the wine, but she didn't because of that warning she had. So the girls, they run around and they head to some kind of secret compartment in the castle. And then they hear, one of the girls are like, oh, we need to hear this. And she's like, no, that's invading somebody's privacy. She's like, well, it's going to happen to you one day, Mary. So what is it? the consummation of love. Basically, the royal people get married and they have to get it on in front of everybody. And so it's Elizabeth and it's Philip of France, about to be Spain. And so Elizabeth kind of shy, doesn't want to do it. He's all like, it'll be okay. And then they do it. Now, what's so memorable about this is that one, the girls getting hot and bothered. Two, you only see the silhouette of the couple doing it, and you see them on top of each other, going up and down, and you hear moaning. This got the CW in trouble big time. I remember this had to be edited out of the reruns. This was back when you had to actual watch TV every week, and this got edited out. And stuff. And so the girl, one of the girls, Ali, she wanted to leave because she just got like, she don't want to watch no more. And so the girls, they run off to do what they want to do, but Kenna decides to go by herself. And Kenna is still hot and bothered and decides to double click her mouse. Then all of a sudden, a man grabs her. Who is it? Henry, King Henry. And at first she's startled, but then she just lets him have his way with her and stuff. And needless to say, in the rest of the season, they become lovers and everything, which pisses Diane off. And it's like, dude, she's 15 years old. What is wrong with you? But then again, you gotta remember, this is like back in those olden days, and a king and queen got whoever they wanted. And plus, I think the adult age in England is like 16, which is so weird and everything, because here it's 18. But it's just like, it's so gross because they're teenagers, man. Like, get your own age and stuff. And he don't want his wife. He don't want his wife to be with another man, but he don't want his wife. And so the next thing that happens, I could not believe this happened in the pilot, and it happened on the CW show. But this will start to become more of a recurring thing in later on towards like 2018. And it's the very first attempted assault of that of Mary. So she's sleeping in her bed and some guy is about to pull off his pants and she hears the belt unbuckle and wakes up. It's Colin. What the world? I was like, dude. So he looks very shocked and surprised, and she's screaming and hollering, and the guards come in. Well, they take him to the dungeon. And so, like, Lola, she's very, very, very heartbroken over this. And, you know, the other girls are there to console her. And Mary's all like, he tried to assault me and everything. And, like, she's all like, I talked to him. And he said that somebody put him up to this. Somebody high ranking in, like, France. And he can't say who because he's terrified of saying who. And so I stopped and I thought about, oh, it can't be that person. No, would that person really go that far that set that dude up? Later on, I found out she would. And so, like, he will not rat this person out. And Lola is just like heartbroken. And so Mary's all like, you know what? I believe you and I believe Colin because some mysterious person came to me and told me don't drink the wine. And there was something in that wine. And Mary is about to drink it, but she never did when she was talking to Colin. So she goes to King Henry and Queen like Catherine and plead the case of like somebody put him up to this and stuff. And they're all like, look, it's been done. He confessed. And he's been beheaded. And so there ain't nothing you can do. And like, dude, they beheaded him the very next morning. Back then, they didn't have lawyers. And basically, if you was accused of something, you'd be going to prison or the dungeon, whatever, and then you'll be like hung or head chopped off or something like that. And they actually show the head getting chopped off and the blood splattering. I told you, they don't show blood that much, but when they show it, it's a lot. So Mary has to go to Lola and tell her what happened about how she was too late and there was nothing she could do. Lola lets her have it. She stands up to her queen and she's all like, this is all your fault. Like everybody who's your friend is in like, is cursed because of you, because you're cursed and everything, because people want you dead and everything. And so I'm like, dude, she has enemies everywhere and now her friends are turning on her and stuff. Like she can't catch a break and it wasn't her fault. And then all of a sudden, she has a conversation with Francis. And with that conversation, he's all like, why did you stand up for like your assailant and everything? And he's all like, did you put him up to that to make me jealous? She's like, no, and everything. She's like, I don't care what women you have, blah blah stuff like that. Or maybe she does care, something like that. But then he ended up confessing he does like her and stuff. So now they're smiling at each other, all googly eyed and stuff like that. And Catherine can see this from a window as she's talking to Notre Dame. Notre Dame can't believe what she did. She set Colin up. The wine was spiked with a sleeping potion. And so Mary would have been asleep by the time he did what he did. And at some point she would have woke up. And see, here's the thing. Back in those days, if you're to be wed to a king, your flap had to be intact down there, and you had to be a virgin. So if Mary would have been assaulted, she would be no longer a virgin, and she would not be allowed to marry the future king. This is what happened in the Serpent Queen, where they had to check Catherine to see if she was still a virgin before she married Henry and stuff. They had some weird rules back then, but the women had to follow all of them, where the men just do whatever they want. And so Catherine was hoping that Mary would get like assaulted so she wouldn't be a virgin and she wouldn't marry her son and lead to her son's death. This is screwed up from some in-law crap, if you know what I'm saying. Like, how can you do something like that? But she said she was trying to prevent like him from dying, but Notre Dame was all like, nope, my vision, I can still see it clear. He is gonna die, and it's gonna be because of Mary. And so Catherine now has become an enemy of Mary. And needless to say, they don't get along in this entire series. And so Bash brings back Mary's dog. He found the dog in the woods. And so after talking and thanking him, because those two used to be best friends growing up, and they just give each other some strange looks at times. And so his mom, Diane, comes over and she's all like, where did you find the dog? And he's all like, in the woods. It smelt the blood. And she's all like, you have to be careful when you go in there or the blood will get you too and all this other crap. So it's basically some, is there supernatural stuff? Is there not? This is one of those things that kept like rattling around in my brain back in the day. And then so the show ends with Mary outside in the beautiful night in a cloak, and she's just standing near like the little pond river thing, I think. And somebody is behind her, and she knows somebody's behind her, but she won't turn around. She's all like, it was you, wasn't it, who warned me about the wine? She's like, why did you like save me and everything? Are people trying to hurt you as well? And the lightning flickers and you can see the person. We don't know who it is. They're wearing a bag over their head. Now I know who it is because I watched the entire series. But it's a mystery and everything. And so when she finally turns around, the person is gone. And she is worried because she knows no matter where she goes, she is targeted for death. And I'm telling you, man, this was like a pretty cool, legit series. It went a little too hard on the whole love, romance, love triangle crap. That just kept flustering the show and everything. But other than that, it had some really good drama. And it was a good drama period piece series. And, Accolade, she is probably one of the few people who was on the show who still gets work today. A lot of the people don't get work no more, which is very shocking because they can all act. But she's on Grey's Anatomy now as a doctor. I couldn't believe that. Like, man, she is moving up, and she used to be on Power Rangers as a villain and stuff. Happy Women's History Month, everybody. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.